Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're digging into, well, a really fascinating slice of American political history.
We are. We've got documents focusing on a pretty unlikely pair on the 1934 Communist Party ticket in New York.
That's Israel Amter for governor and Williana Burroughs for lieutenant governor. Definitely not your typical candidates, even then.
Not at all. And looking at them gives us this great window into the early Communist Party USA, the CPUSA. It was complex, surprisingly diverse, especially during the Great Depression.
So our mission here is to give you a shortcut, really, to understanding these two figures and what they represented. They're often overlooked, but their stories are, well, quite revealing.
They absolutely are. And maybe we should start with the election results themselves, just to set the scene.
Good idea. So in 1934, how did they actually do?
Well, they didn't win, obviously, but Amter pulled in 45,878 votes. That's about 1.21% of the total.
Okay, 1.21%. Doesn't sound like much, maybe.
But context is key here. That was, believe it or not, the most votes any communist candidate had ever gotten for a New York State office up to that point.
Wow. So it wasn't a win, but it was definitely a sign that something was happening, that radical ideas were gaining maybe a bit more traction.
Exactly. It showed visibility. It showed that their message in that specific moment of crisis was starting to connect with people.
All right, let's get into the candidates themselves. First up, Israel Amter. Born 1881, he became sort of the go-to candidate for the party, right? Ran for office multiple times.
He did. A perennial candidate, you could say, but his origin story is not what you might expect for a prominent communist leader.
Right, I saw that. Born in Denver, Jewish-Hungarian parents. But the really surprising part is his early career focus.
Music. He studied piano, seriously studied it, at the Leipzig Conservatory in Germany. Pretty prestigious.
Yeah, and he didn't just study, he actually composed an opera back in 1912, Winona it was called.
That's the one. It was about a romance between a U.S. Army officer and a Native American woman, apparently influenced by this Indianist movement in music at the time.
It's just fascinating, this sort of romantic, American-themed art project. How does someone go from that to becoming a leading figure in the Communist Party?
Well, the political bug bit him early, even alongside the music. He joined the Socialist Party way back in 1901.
Okay.
And while he was in Germany studying music, he was also active in their Social Democratic Party, the SPD. So the political seeds were there.
Ah, I see. So it wasn't quite out of nowhere.
Not entirely. And when he came back to the U.S., the whole political landscape was changing post-World War I. He became a founding member of the Communist Party of America in 1919. It seems like he fully committed to politics then and kind of left the music behind.
And he became a very public face for the party, especially during the Depression.
Very much so. He was heavily involved in the CP's unemployed councils, organizing protests, demanding relief. He was on the front lines.
And that led to trouble with the law, didn't it?
It did. Big time. March 6th, 1930, New York City, there was a large demonstration for International Unemployment Day, which turned into a riot. Amter and other leaders were arrested.
Did he serve time?
Yes, he served a jail term for that, which, in the eyes of the party and its supporters, probably just boosted his credentials, made him a martyr for the cause.
So his constant campaigning, his organizing, his arrest, it all built this image. He was the established, recognizable face of communism in New York for many people. Ran for governor 3 times in total, I think.
It's right, 1932, 34, and later in 42, plus other offices. He was definitely dedicated to being that public figurehead.
Okay, so that's Amter. The intellectual, European-influenced socialist turned dedicated party man. Now let's pivot to his running mate, Williana Burroughs. Her story is, well, it's dramatically different.
Dramatically. It's rooted in a very different American experience. Born 1882 in Virginia, her mother had actually been enslaved.
Just incredible hardship from the start.
Absolutely. The family moved to New York, faced extreme poverty after her father died. So much so that Williana and her siblings spent 7 years in the New York City Colored Orphan Asylum from age 4 to 11.
That's hard to even imagine, the resilience to come through that.
It's staggering. And she didn't just survive, she excelled academically. She graduated from New York City Normal College in 1903. That's Hunter College now.
And I read she was the only African-American student in her graduating class of 50.
The only one. And she became a public school teacher, a real achievement given her background.
But that success didn't last long, unfortunately.
No. Another barrier hit her. In 1909, she was fired. Why? Because she got married, and the school board had a policy against employing married women teachers.
Unbelievable, just layer upon layer of obstacles.
Exactly, and you can see how experiences like that kind of structural discrimination, would push someone towards radicalism. She started looking for ways to fight the system that was causing so much suffering for her people.
So where did she turn?
She got involved with the American Negro Labor Congress around 1926, and then joined the Communist Party itself, probably around 26 or 27.
She rose quickly in those circles.
Yes, she became a leader. She was writing quite a bit too, often under a pseudonym, Mary Adams. Articles about education, about racial discrimination, published in places like The Daily Worker and The Working Woman.
So she's organizing, she's writing, and then she takes her critique to an international stage, right? Moscow.
That's a key moment. In 1928, she represented the American Negro Labor Congress at the 6th World Congress of the Communist International, the Comintern.
For listeners, the Comintern was basically the nerve center, the international headquarters coordinating communist parties worldwide.
Precisely. So this was the absolute top level of the global movement.
Yeah.
And Burroughs gets up there.
And she speaks her mind.
She really does. She was the first black woman ever to address the Third International. And she didn't hold back. She criticized her own party, the CPUSA.
What was her main point?
She called them out for, in her words, an underestimation of women's work, and especially the issues facing black women. She argued that if the party really wanted to succeed, particularly in the U.S., it had to focus on black women, on immigrants from the West Indies and Africa, on young people, and on the unemployed.
Wow, that's basically intersectionality, decades before the term became common academic language.
Right.
She's talking about race, class, gender, immigration status, all tied together.
Absolutely. She saw how these things were interlocked, and that's why many scholars today see her work as foundational, a real precursor to black left feminism and theories of triple oppression, race, class, and gender.
It's incredible that this analysis was coming out of her direct grassroots work in Harlem. That international critique was fueled by local struggle.
Completely. Her nomination for lieutenant governor in 1934 wasn't just symbolic. It came directly from her deep roots in Harlem organizing.
What kind of work was she doing there?
All sorts. She was a leader in the Harlem Tenants League, organizing protests, rent strikes against slum conditions. She led the women's division of the League of Struggle for Negro Rights, the LSNR. She helped run the Harlem Workers' School. She was on the editorial board of the Harlem Liberator. I mean, she was everywhere.
An organizing powerhouse.
Truly. And inevitably, that made her a target again.
Right. She lost her teaching job again.
Yes, in June 1933. The official reason this time was conduct unbecoming to a teacher.
Which sounds like a catch-all for, we don't like your politics.
Pretty much. Her unbecoming conduct was things like protesting at school board meetings about the terrible conditions in Harlem schools, or demanding lunch programs for the kids of unemployed parents. Basic advocacy for her community.
So bringing Emter and Burroughs together on this 1934 ticket, what was the actual platform they ran on, given the context of the Depression?
It was very concrete, very focused on immediate needs. They weren't just selling ideology, they were offering specific solutions.
What?
3 core things, really. 1, jobs and unemployment insurance, guaranteed. 2, a federal anti-lynching bill, which was desperately needed and constantly blocked. And 3, the right for workers to organize unions and demand better wages.
Jobs, justice, unions. Pretty direct.
Very direct. And aimed squarely at the suffering working class, both black and white.
And again, those 45,878 votes suggest that this specific, radical but practical platform was resonating.
It certainly seems that way. It hit the key pressure points of the time.
Now, you mentioned Burroughs went back to Moscow. Her international role didn't end in 1928.
No, she went back in 1935 for a much longer stay. And this time, she wasn't just a delegate. She took on a significant role at Radio Moscow.
Radio Moscow.
Yeah, she became an announcer and an editor for their English language broadcasts. She was literally broadcasting Soviet perspectives to the English-speaking world.
So she became known as the Voice of Moscow.
That was her nickname. It gave her this huge international platform for years, right up until she returned to the U.S. in 1945.
And sadly, she passed away very soon after returning.
Yes, just a few months later, in December 1945. A tragically short time back home after so long abroad.
What about Amter's later life? The post-Depression Cold War era must have been tough for a high-profile communist.
It absolutely was. He developed Parkinson's disease, which slowed him down physically in the 1940s, but politically the pressure ramped up.
The Red Scare.
Exactly. He was indicted in 1951 under the Smith Act. That was the law used to prosecute Communist Party leaders for essentially advocating the overthrow of the government.
Did he go to trial?
He was initially part of a major trial, but because his Parkinson's was so advanced by then, his case was severed. He wasn't imprisoned again, but the indictment hung over him. He passed away in 1954.
So looking back at both of them, what's the lasting legacy here that seems different for each?
It does seem that way. Amter, perhaps because he was the face on the ballot so often, lingered a bit in cultural memory. Allen Ginsberg actually name-checks him in his famous poem, America.
Oh, interesting. So he pops up in beat poetry.
Yeah. But Burroughs, her legacy feels more profound, maybe more academic or theoretical now, but deeply significant. That 1928 Comintern speech, her insistence on centering Black women's experiences.
It really was groundbreaking.
It was. She was forcing the international communist movement and the American Party to grapple with race and gender in a way they hadn't before. She was, as we said, articulating intersectionality long before the term existed, a true pioneer in Black left feminism.
So wrapping this up, what's the main takeaway for someone learning about Amter and Burroughs today?
Yeah.
What does their story tell us?
Well, I think the 1934 ticket itself is a powerful symbol. It shows the CPUSA trying to build this broad, diverse coalition. You had Amter, the Jewish intellectual with European socialist roots.
Paired with Burroughs, the Black woman, former teacher, grassroots organizer, forged in Harlem struggles.
Exactly. They were trying to fuse these different strands of radicalism, class-based, anti-racist, community-based, into one political force during a moment of profound crisis.
And even though they lost the election, the act of putting that ticket forward with that platform, it mattered.
It really did. It teaches us that radical platforms, even when they fail electorally in the short term, can inject crucial ideas into the public debate. They were demanding things, jobs, insurance, anti-lynching laws that were way outside the mainstream then.
But by demanding them loudly, they helped push the conversation, maybe pave the way for future changes.
Arguably, yes. It highlights how often radical voices, people operating outside the established political system, are the ones who first articulate demands that eventually become common sense or accepted policy goals.
Which leads to a final thought, perhaps, for you listening. Think about that 1934 platform again.
Jobs, insurance, an anti-lynching bill.
Consider how long the fight for those things has continued in American politics. How much effort did it take, from pioneers like Amter and Burroughs and countless others, to even get those issues taken seriously, let alone achieve progress? It really makes you think about the long, slow grind of fighting for economic and racial justice.
It certainly does. Their story shows that immediate electoral success isn't the only measure of political impact. Sometimes it's about planting seeds for the future.